All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're going to pop the hood on a piece of tech that, let's be honest, has completely changed the game: ChatGPT.
So get this. When ChatGPT launched, it hit 100 million active users in just 2 months. Seriously, 2 months. To give you some perspective, that officially makes it the fastest growing app in history. The scale is just mind-blowing.
But when something grows that fast, it makes you wonder, right? We've all typed something into that little box, but what's really happening behind the scenes? How does this thing actually work? Well, that's exactly what we're about to break down. To answer that 100 million user question, we've got to start with the core technology, the engine that's humming away at the very heart of the system.
Okay, so the heart of ChatGPT is something called a large language model, or LLM for short. The version most of us started with is called GPT 3.5. Now, the easiest way to think of an LLM is as a super-powered prediction engine. After being fed a gigantic library of text, its one main job is to guess what the most likely next word is in any sentence. That's its core function.
But, superpowered is a pretty vague term. What does that really mean? To get it, we need to look inside the engine itself to see just how ridiculously complex this machine is.
We're talking about a truly immense scale. GPT 3.5 has 175 billion, that's billion with a B, parameters. Think of parameters as tiny little knobs or dials that the model can tune. Each one represents a tiny bit of what the model has learned about the relationships between words. It's the raw horsepower of the AI.
Now, here's a crucial detail. The model doesn't read words the way we do. It chops language up into something called tokens. A token might be a whole word, like apple, or just a piece of a word, like the ing in running. Then it turns those tokens into numbers. Why? Well, because computers are built for math, not for poetry. This is the AI's native language.
So, where did it learn all of this? From a colossal, absolutely massive chunk of the internet. It was trained on over 500 billion tokens. That's an almost unimaginable amount of text from articles, books, and websites, all of it digested to learn the patterns, grammar, and, well, the facts of our world. But here's the thing. Just having a giant brain that's read the whole internet isn't quite enough. A raw model like that can be a little unpredictable, kind of wild. This is where the real magic comes in, with a process we can think of as the chef's secret recipe. So here's the problem you run into. If an AI is only trained to predict the next word based on the raw, unfiltered internet, it can spit out things that are just plain wrong, totally unhelpful, or even toxic. It's like having this incredibly powerful engine, but with no one in the driver's seat. The solution, and this is the secret sauce, is a process called reinforcement learning from human feedback. Yeah, it's a mouthful, so let's call it RLHF. This is the fine-tuning step that takes that raw, wild LLM and turns it into the helpful, conversational assistant we all know. It teaches the AI not just what to say, but how to say it in a way humans actually find useful and safe. Now, RLHF might sound really complicated, but there's a super simple analogy that makes it all click. Imagine the base AI model is a brilliant chef. The chef knows how to cook basically everything, but they have no clue what any specific person actually likes to eat. So, how do we teach them?
It happens in a really clever 3-step process. First up is the taste test. Our chef, the AI, cooks up several different answers to a single prompt. Then, real people, human labelers, taste each one and rank them from best to worst. Next, you build the reward model. Using all that human ranking data, a totally separate AI is trained to act like a food critic. Its only job is to look at a response and predict how much a human is going to like it. And finally, the chef starts practicing. The original AI generates a new response, it shows it to the AI critic to get a score, and then it adjusts its recipe over and over and over, trying to get the highest score possible. That constant feedback loop is how it learns to make things we find helpful.
Okay, so we've got a massive model, and it's been fine-tuned like a world-class chef. But how does that all come together when you type in a prompt and hit enter? Let's look at the final piece of the puzzle.
Turns out, there are a few invisible things happening in the background every single time. First, to remember what you were just talking about, the system silently injects your recent chat history back into the model along with your new prompt. That gives it context. Second, a bunch of hidden instructions are secretly added to tell the AI how to behave, to be helpful, harmless, that kind of thing. And finally, before you ever see a word, Both your prompt and the AI's answer get scanned by a moderation API to filter out anything unsafe. It's a whole 3-layer system for context and safety.
So, after all that, what's the big takeaway? It really boils down to 2 key things working together. On one side, you have the absolutely immense scale, 175 billion parameters, 500 billion tokens. But on the other, you have this very careful, very human process of refinement that teaches it not just to talk, but to be helpful.
And that leaves us with one last and pretty important question. If the real secret ingredient here is human feedback, human preference, what does that mean for the future? The AI isn't just learning to be correct, it's learning to give us answers that we like. So as this tech gets more and more woven into our lives, what does it mean when our most powerful tool is being designed not just to be right, but to be agreeable?